G'day folks, and welcome back to another episode of Kindness Pandemic TV. I'm Tom Robb, this is my good friend Damien Cole, and we've got a fantastic show on for you today. But before we do get started, as always, we would love to acknowledge the traditional landowners of this country, the Wadawurrung people, and of course pay our respects to past, present and emerging elders there, and not just for this country, but countries worldwide as well.
Yeah, thanks for that, Tom. And as you did mention, we do have an exciting show today. We are very fortunate to have back Xavier Morello from Wildlife Xposure, and he's going to be showing us a couple of different animals that he's got, and once again, just educating the little kids and the big kids in our community on the beauty that is the Australian wildlife.
Awesome, thanks Damo. Let's get involved and check this out. Over to you, Xavier.
G'day all you awesome people out there. Xavier here from Wildlife Xposure again. Really stoked to be on. So thanks Tom, thanks Damo. And you can hear Nina behind me again if you watched last week. Nina is a barking owl, so she's going to make a bit of noise here. But I've got some other animals I thought we'd look at today too, and explore further the owls that we have in Australia. So the barking owl, Nina, I'm going to quickly feed her to keep her quiet. So I thought I'd do that while you're here with me. One moment. Give her a little chicken, because that's what she likes to eat. Here you go, Nina. So just a quick close-up for you there, guys at home. I set up a light today to see if we can get a better view of these animals. But if you remember Nina, a barking owl. These are a type of hawk owl I did mention. So hawk owls are the bigger group of owls we have in Australia, the larger sized owls. So she's closely related to the powerful owl, which is the biggest owl we have in Australia. I'll give you this chicken, I'll send her back over, and I'll introduce you to another owl we have here at Wildlife Xposure. So, do you want your chicken? All right, here we go. I'll give her a chicken. Good girl. And so, hawk owls are the bigger owls. They have a more powerful, strong beak, whereas the next owl is from a group of owls known as the Tyto owls, or the masked owls, sorry. So masked owls are owls with the famous facial dish. Picture here behind me. So this is the owl I'm going to show you next. This is Alba. And Alba is a beautiful barn owl. So you've probably heard of barn owls. They're probably the most recognizable and well-known owl around the world. And they're really interesting because they're the only species of bird found on every continent except Antarctica. So they're very widely distributed across the whole globe. So come out, good girl. This is Alba. So you can see Alba has this really striking facial dish. And that facial dish is used to catch sound. So it's just not just there to make her look pretty, but it's functional. In nature, adaptations help animals to fit into their niche within their environments they live in. And having this facial dish allows the barn owl to pinpoint its prey in the dark. So not just relying on its sight to locate small animals like mice. Mice are on the top of her favourite treats. So she's well adapted to hunting mice. And having this facial dish catches sound. So imagine basically your ear is funneling sound into your, into inner ear. Well, her face does this. It funnels the sound into each of her ears. And what's interesting about barn owls is their ear on each side is in a slightly different position, and that actually helps them to locate the exact precise position of that sound. So it's using the Doppler effect. They're really quite high tech, you could say. Beautifully adapted as a mouse killing machine. A family of barn owls, in fact, can eat around 50 mice in one night. So that's the impact they can have on mice populations, and why farmers want them in their barns eating mice. Sadly now we rely more on other means such as traps and poisons, and poisons sadly can have an indirect effect on our population. So you imagine poisoning a mouse population with a rat sack, or 1080 of these poisons that we use here in Australia, unfortunately. These owls can then eat those sick mice or rats and fall ill. And sadly their population in some parts of the world are under threat, but globally these are a very common species. As I did mention, they're found on every continent except Antarctica. The only vertebrate, in fact, that's evolved with each continent. So really remarkable animal. It's a testament to its adaptations and how adaptable it is. They can live in snow in arid parts of Australia, in central parts, mountainous parts, in urban environments and farmland. I mean, we've had them visit the property here. I've seen wild barn owls land on top of Alba's Avery talking to her at night. So they're a very common species. Don't make the traditional hoot hoot or barking sound as Nina makes quite regularly, or that's a bit of a different sound, but barn owls are known also for their unusual screeching sound. So they're also called a screeching owl. They've got a few freaky names. Death owl sounds like something horrible happening in the forests to somebody when they call. It's like this. I'm not really not very good at it, but yeah, you'll have to believe me. It's a really intense screeching sound. So the screeching owl, not a hoot hoot. Hey, whoa, she's flying around the place here. I'll pop her away and I'll get out something else to talk about, but I'll see if she'll come back first. You gonna come back, Alba? I might have to use a micey pole. This is a bit of a joke, bit of a dad joke, sorry. Here you go, you come back? Come on, girl. I don't think it's gonna work. Animals are a bit unpredictable. Oh, here we go. Oh, there we go. Using those talons to grab its prey. And then that beak. So excuse the grave, people are a bit squeamish and home, having leaving lunch, apologies, but it's what she eats, mice. Look, I'm going to pop her away, as I said. I'll introduce you to another nocturnal bird. But the barn owl is such an exquisite example of a nocturnal predator. They don't get more well adapted, really. So come on, step up. Her aviary's just on the end, so I'm going to pop her down there and come straight back. Bear with me. Thanks for waiting. Great. Well, my next animal I thought we'd look at is not an owl, but is commonly mistaken for an owl, and they are very common in our backyards and in urban environments. So this next bird is nocturnal also, but not an owl, I keep saying. But this is what we call a tawny frogmouth. So you've probably heard of a tawny frogmouth. I can hear you at home saying, yeah, I've seen one on the fence, or we've got one in the backyard. They're really interesting birds. Like an owl being nocturnal, owl-like is what their name actually means. They're a type of, well, more closely related to nightjars. So let me get out my friend. This is my buddy Branch. Now, Branch might be a little bit funny with my friend Nina behind me, so I might just keep her distracted again, if you can excuse me. I'll feed her another chicken to make her leave us alone here. So, here you go. Nina. There we go. Thanks for your patience, everybody. Working with animals, you've got to improvise here and make do. So look, I'll get out my buddy Branch. Hey, Branch. Step up. Here he is. Oh, nice. Just missed me. So Branch, tawny frogmouth. He actually hatched out of an egg in our office. So we have his parents here on the property, and they unfortunately are not good parents. They'd lay eggs but often knock them out of their nest or even eat the chicks when they hatched. For whatever reason, I'm not sure, but we had to actually take the eggs and incubate them to ensure they were going to hatch. So Branch has a brother called Buckley, and we're really rapt that they were able to come through the first successful hatching from that pair. So these birds, like I mentioned, not an owl. Different to an owl, we discussed the owls, or we saw as well, their talons. So they catch food with their feet, whereas a tawny frogmouth catches food with its bill. If I can show you here, he's got this big, wide bill. Wow, frogmouth, right? So that big, wide bill, they mostly use to catch insects. They do eat other small animals, maybe a mouse or a frog or a lizard, but they're very well adapted to catching insects. I don't know if you notice his mouth. If I can get him to sit in my hand here. I've got to watch Branch. I don't have anything attached. He might start flying around the room. I'll give him a little mouse to keep him happy. So excuse me. Here we go. Want a mouse, mate? Here you go. He's been distracted by Nina. He's seen her over there. Hey, Branch. Here you go. No, doesn't want it. Never mind. So here we go. Oh, he's not going to look at the camera now. He's too busy looking at Nina. But as I mentioned, that beak, I don't know if he's going to open it for us again. He's got a bright yellow mouth. And that bright yellow mouth attracts insects. So at night, he's able to open up his mouth, catching moonlight, and that mouth, I guess, looks a little bit like a flower. So insects are more likely to be attracted closer to him where he's able to catch them. He's got these little feathers on his nose. I don't know if you can see them there. They're called trigger feathers. You can see them there. And they use them again to detect small animals like insects that get close to their bill. You've noticed his head spinning? Just like ours, they can spin their head 360 degrees, so 180 in each direction, allowing them to track small animals. They actually mate for life too, which is really cool. We have a wild pair on our property here that we've seen year after year coming back to the same tree and laying eggs and then rearing their young. And they live in family groups, which is really cool. So we do see the same birds coming back year after year. Pretty much any night I go outside to feed some of these owls, there'll be a tawny in a tree watching me. And they make this really unusual sound. It's sort of like a humming. They kind of go, So if you hear this strange humming noise at night, most likely a tawny frogmouth watching you. Obviously, great camouflage, you can see there, in a tree. They're very cryptic. They're masters of looking like a dead branch, hence his name, Branch. During the day, he'll point his nose out, close his eyes, and he will just look like a grey, broken branch on a tree. So really cryptic, masters of camouflage. Yes, mate, I know. He gets a bit nervous with Nina. I might have mentioned Nina, the barking owl, is a predator of other birds as well. So in the wild, barking owls could potentially hunt and eat a tawny frogmouth. Branch is safe, mate. I'm taking good care of you, don't you worry. Look, I'll pop him away before he starts flapping around the place, but the tawny frogmouth, not an owl, more closely related to a nightjar. All right, buddy, all right. So I'll move him over. He's a little box that I'm keeping him in here while I'm talking, and I'll put him back out in his aviary next to his mum and dad in just a moment when we're done. So good boy. Go on, mate. Or the mouth again. I just want to see if I can show you there before I put him away. No, no. Maybe a mouse. Would you like a mouse before we go away? No, he's too distracted. Okay, I'll pop him away. Thanks, guys. All right, well, look, the next animal I thought we could look at, I know the other week we looked at the owl and possum, so I have another possum to introduce you to. We looked at the little squirrel glider, if you remember, which is closely related to a sugar glider. But today I want to introduce you to a ringtail possum. So again, a very common species you'd have in your backyard, most likely at home. Even in some of inner city areas of Melbourne and urban areas, these possums are very prolific. And in fact, they've actually benefited in some ways from urbanisation and our gardens basically. So we plant gardens with natives and fruit trees and roses and other things that these possums love to eat, and they've actually benefited from human environments. Power lines as well have allowed these animals to traverse across roads without being hit, connecting otherwise maybe detached habitats. So they're able to move around using things like power lines. Obviously, it doesn't always end well for some possums, as you're probably aware, but yeah, they do use the power lines. And I'll get my friend out. Her name, is Polly. Now, Polly's just in this little sleeping bag at the moment, being nocturnal. I've tucked her up in here so I can get her out easily to show you, but normally she'd be asleep in a nest box that we have for her. So let me just introduce you to Polly here. So the ringtail possum. Where are you, girl? Here's a little Polly. Here she is. Another really exquisite nocturnal animal. Big eyes for seeing in the dark. Whiskers for feeling its way around the dark. Ears picking up little sounds to avoid predators like owls and others. But these animals are so well adapted to climbing. Almost like a monkey, their tail is what we call prehensile. So if I can show you, the ringtail possum, famous for its tail. Its name actually means false hand, its scientific name. So if you can see there, that tail, how it's wrapped around my finger, like a ring. So prehensile, really strong. If Polly lets me, I'll be able to show you how strong she can hang and support her whole body weight. Quite normally they do it regularly to reach flowers or the tips of fresh gum leaves that they want to eat. They might use that tail. So let's see if Polly's going to cooperate with me. Hey girl, good girl. Let's move slowly with Polly so she's comfortable. If you can see this, how incredible. Wow, no stress at all to her. She'll even climb up her own tail. How amazing. Such a cool animal. very underrated. I mean, many urban and suburban backyards, I guess, find possums annoying. You know, they can run across our roof and make noises, sure enough. They can get in your roof and cause damage. But the fact is, these are a native animal and have a really important role to play in our backyards and in bushland. They're pollinators. So this particular species, the ringtail, predominantly eats gum leaves and blossoms and flowers. So as they move through the tree, the pollen gets stuck to the fur and they're cross-pollinating gum trees. Really important for the health of the gum trees and helping promote seeds. Also, these little possums help the tree stay healthy by pruning off the growth of trees, encouraging new growth. Really important little animals. She's a marsupial, just like a kangaroo or a koala that we have so much love for in Australia. Possums are also marsupials. So she's got a pouch and she'll have 1, 2, maybe 3 joeys, very rarely. And those little joeys will stay in her pouch, drinking milk before they move onto her back. And they'll ride around with her until they're a little too big for her to manage, and they'll move off on their own. And yeah, she's hasn't been a mum yet, but we're hoping maybe next year or even later this year she might be able to have a joey of her own. We have a few other ringtails here on the property, but she's one that's been hand reared. So we've been able to take her when she was a little joey just on her mum's back and about to move off. We took her and handled her, so she's been able to, I guess, be comfortable around people. Is that right, Polly? Good girl. And these possums, the ringtail possums, are not the ones that get into your roof. So they'd be brushtail possums. Brushtail possums will use hollows in trees and they're opportunistic, looking for places to sleep, whereas a ringtail makes a nest.